graphing exponential decay functions. So when we talked about growth on Friday, the parent function was f of x equals b to the x power, right? Where b had to be greater than 1, correct? Okay, and then that told me that it was growing, okay, that it was exponentially growing. Exponential decay is this. It's the same exact formula, okay? F of x equals b to the x. It's the same parent function, except for now, you're going to add the parameter of 0 is less than b, b is less than 1. If 0 is less than b, and b is less than 1, what type of number does that make it?
Decimal.
A what? Decimal or a fraction, yes. You're probably going to see it in fraction form more than decimal, but it can be either. When it's decay, that means my b, what I'm raising my exponent with, okay, whatever number is my base of my exponent, is going to be a fraction. That's how I know the difference between decay and growth. Okay, that's how I know the difference. So I'm not going to have a negative number there. My negative is going to come from that a that's in front of it, okay, if it flips or does anything like that. The domain of f of x equals b to the x is all real numbers. The range is y is greater than 0. Okay, so we're going to graph this. We're going to graph y equals 1/2 to the x. How do I graph y equals 1/2 to the x? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to graph? Yeah, let's just plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Just plug numbers in, we're going to get outputs. So if I plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, if I plug in a -2, what happens? Not negative. If I plug in a -2, I get 1 to the -2 over 2 to the -2. What happens with that? They flip. So you get 2 squared over 1 squared, which is 4. Do not get confused on this. Rules of exponents still apply. If I plug in a -1, what happens? You get 2 because you get 1 to the -1 over 2 to the -1, which means it flips to 2 to the first over 1 to the first. So you get 2. What happens when you plug 0 into any exponent? 1. What happens when I plug in 1? 1/2. What happens when I plug in 2?
Negative.
No, 1/4. So then my graph looks like this: 2, 4, right? -2, 4. -1, 2. 0, 1, 1/2, and this. So my exponential decay is happening like this. What is my domain? Good. What's my range?
X is greater, less than 1.
Well, okay, I heard 900 things. Y is what?
Less than 1. Less than greater than.
No.
Y is greater than 1.
No.
Y is greater than 0.
Yes, it's not going to cross this axis. It's already less than 1 right here.
Yeah.
Okay, y is greater than 0. That's the simplest version of what we're going to be doing. We're going to graph 2 on 1. Okay? So let's graph this. Once again, you should have lots of charts on your homework tonight. Okay, if you have charts, then that means you're doing your work right because you have to plug numbers in and get outputs. Otherwise, I'm going to count your homework wrong because you're not going to show me your work. Okay, right here. I need to plug numbers into that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do it right here. That way I can just keep erasing it. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, yes?
Yeah.
If I plug in a -2, what happens?
You get 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8.
No. I get this.
Oh, if you plug in -2, you get 16.
Yes, so I get 4 squared over 1 squared. So I get 16, and then what's 16 times 2?
32.
32. If I plug in a -1, what do you get out?
4 times 2 is 8.
You get 4 times 2, which is 8, not negative, it's positive.
Because when you
What happens when you plug in 0? 1
times 2
times
is
2
is
is
2.
2. What happens when you plug in 1?
1/2.
You get 1/2 because there's 1/4 times 2, which is 2 over 4, which is 1/2. What happens when you plug in 2?
1/16.
1 over 16, which then times 2 is
1/32.
No.
1/32.
2 over 32. 2 over 16. Guys, think. I need you to think. 1/4 squared means that I have 1 squared over 4 squared, which equals 1/16. When you multiply 1/16 times 2, you get 2 over 16, which reduces to what?
1/8.
You are going to screw this up if you don't write it out. Write it out. So you get 1/8. So when I go to plot this, I'm not going to plot -2 because I don't have 32 on here. But -1 is positive 8. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8.
That's an outlier.
0, 0, 2 is here. 1.5, and then 2 and an 8. So what's my domain on this one? And what's my range on this one?
Y, 0.
Y is what?
Greater
than 0. Okay, now over here, let's do this one. We want to plug in the same numbers. If I plug in -2, what do I get? That means you have this, 2/5 to the -2, which means you have 5 squared over 2 squared, right?
25/4.
What's 25/4 times -3? You're gonna tell me because you're gonna do it in your calculator. If you don't have a calculator, you're screwed for your homework. Get a calculator. Bring your
Is
stuff
it
to class.
negative
5
25?
squares, 25.
No, it's not -25. It's 25 over 4. You will not have negatives with exponents.
-3.
It's what?
18
Oh my
and
God.
3/4.
Negative 18 and 3/4. Yes. Negative 18.75. What happens when I plug in a -1? That means I get 5 over 2 times -3.
So -7.5.
-7.5. What happens when you plug in a 0? You get -3.
I
You
was
get
like
-3.
3 times negative.
Oh, that's the first one you got.
What happens if you plug in a 1?
2/5 times -3.
Which is?
-1 and 1/5.
Yes, -1 and 1/5. And what happens if you plug in a 2? That means you should have 4 over 25 times -3.
-12. Wait, -12 over 25.
Are you sure about that?
Yes,
Probably not.
that's good.
-12 over 25 when you plug in. You did 4/25 times -3. You should get -0.48. I don't know that the 1 is right either.
So,
How did you get -12? That's not possible. You put parentheses, 4 over 25 times -3. Then you should not get what you just told me. You should get -0.48.
yeah.
Oh.
What?
Says
-0.48. It's not possible.
Oh, if you do -12 divided by 25, you get that. I got it.
You have to do parentheses, 4 divided by 25, in parentheses times -3. Order of operations are wrong. Okay, so if I graph this, I get this. I'm not graphing -2. If I graph -1, it's 7, -7.5. If I graph 0, it's -3. Guys, you guys talk an awful lot for not doing very great on stuff. Just a thought that maybe you should, this was backwards in it. 7.5, 0, -3. So maybe I would pay attention a little bit more in this class is what I'm thinking. And then I'll graph graph should go like this. What's my domain?
Arm.
In this case, yes. What's my
Y is
range?
less than.
Less than zero.
Yep, y is less than 0. Okay, these are the easy ones. Okay, these are before I have an H and K shift, which we're gonna do next.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. Look, up there I have those H and Ks, yes? Now remember, when we have an H and K shift, we've been graphing the smallest portion of the function and then shifting afterwards, yes? You're gonna do the same thing for this tonight. You're going to take this portion right here, and you're going to plug into this, and then I'm going to shift accordingly, okay? It will be easier that way in the long run if you follow those rules. Because you don't have a graphing calculator. So to do it by hand, it's easier if we just
You know
shift.
what, for Christmas, I'm gonna buy all one.
Yeah, okay, they're like $100 a piece.
Costco.
You usually can't buy them in bulk unless you have a teaching license. Okay, so if I plug in a -2, let's talk about graphing just that 3 times 1/2 to the x first. If I plug in a -2, what do I get as my output? 12. Yes, because I go 2 squared over 1 squared, which is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. If I plug in a -1, what do you get?
-6.
Oh, 6. You get positive 6. Positive 6. If I plug in a 0, I get. And if I plug in a 1, I get 1.5. And if I plug in a 2, I get what?
3.
3 what?
Almost 3.
No, 3 times 1/4 is what? Point. What's 3 times a 4?
Wait.
1.75.
If I square it, Maddie, I'm
0.75.
squaring 1 and I'm squaring 2, which gives me 1/4.
0.75.
0.75 or 3/4.
3/4.
Okay? So I'm graphing this and then I'm shifting from there. Maddie, do you understand?
We're getting there. Just start writing, I'll get it.
-1, 6, 2, 4, 6, 0, 3, 1, 1.5, and 2.75. Now, how am I shifting this? What's my H and my K?
-1,
And my K is,
-2.
so I'm going to the left 1 and I'm going down 2, yes? Okay, left 1, down 2. Left 1, down 2. Left 1, down 1, 2. Left 1, down. That's 1 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is 2, right? Okay. So here's my graph now. Now, domain. Range. No,
Y is less
Y.
than -2.
Not
Now,
less.
y is greater than negative.
yes, y is greater than -2, okay? This tells me my range. This also tells me my asymptote, where I'm not going to cross. So technically there is a dotted line through here because it's never gonna cross there, okay? That's called your asymptote. What is my asymptote? Y equals -2. You're going to have to start identifying all 3 of these things. So on your homework and on your test and quiz, when I asked for all 3, it'd be beneficial if you gave me all 3. Unlike our last test where we struggled to give me domain because we didn't read the full question. Yes.
When are we gonna have a quiz?
I think it's on for Thursday, right, on the calendar? I thought I already put it on.
Shame.
It's gonna be over 7-1 through 7-3, so we'll do 7-3 tomorrow and then 7-4 on Wednesday, so Thursday we'll take it so that we have a little bit of time. Yep. Okay, then we are talking about exponential decay. So we had exponential growth the other day, right? What was the formula for exponential growth? Yeah, growth was y equals what? Okay.
Y, one plus.
Yeah. So what's the difference between this formula for growth and this formula for decay?
One's increasing.
Yes, it's the same formula. Decay is subtracting the 1 minus my rate, and growth is my 1 plus my rate. So common sense, if we use it, you can figure that out. Okay, same formula, decay is minus, growth is plus. Okay, so then you're gonna have problems on your homework that deal with exponential decay. In this case, it's about snowmobiles. Okay, you know how like when you buy a car, the depreciation factor hits right when you take it off the lot? Same thing happens for snowmobiles and different items like that. So it says a new snowmobile costs $4,200. The value of the snowmobile decreases by 10% each year. Write an exponential decay model giving the snowmobile's value y in dollars after t years. So we want to leave y and t in there for right now. How would I set up that equation? Y equals what?
Okay, so
42,000.
Yeah, 4,200 because that's my initial amount, right?
parentheses
Times 1, then what?
plus
Minus,
point, no.
yeah,
3 years.
Point.
Point.
0.10, 10% is 0.10,
Okay.
minus 0.10, and then we're gonna leave the t in there for right now. There's your equation, okay? Now it says, what's the value after 3 years? So I'm gonna plug 3 into what, y or t?
T.
So I say y equals 4,200 times 0.9 cubed. What's that come out to? What's 4,200 times 0.9 cubed?
Let me get my calculator.
3,061.8.
Never
Okay.
mind.
3,061.80. So now the snowmobile, instead of being worth $4,200, is only worth $3,061.80 after 3 years. Okay, it's gone down by approximately $1,200, right? Okay. Now, if we graph this, because they asked me, if we graphed it, you would make a rough graph by hand because it's not going to be super accurate because you're doing it by hand, right? Okay. So I would like put over here probably, I would make my x-axis equal time. You got to make sure you label this 1, 2, 3, 4 time in years. You want to make sure you label all of your axes. And I'd make my y-axis the price. Okay. And so it started at $4,200, right, before you bought it. And then at 3 years, it's gone down to what? 3,000. So let's make this 4,000. Let's make this whatever. We'll go down 38. Okay. You would make your graph by whatever you want to make it by, but you get what I'm saying here. 36. Pretend that this is perfect. So then 3 would be like down here, and your graph should show that it's decaying. Yes. Now here's the deal. Is it ever going to go past 0?
No.
Can something be worth less than $0?
No.
No, it's just not. It's just worthless at that point, right? So on our exponential decay, it's going to look like that. And that's how I'd set up my graph. Now then it says if you set up a graph and you use graph paper and it's more accurate, you can then estimate what the value of the snowmobile would be when it was $2,500 because you would go to $2,500 over here and I would come from $2,500 and I'd make a little line across and see where it crosses at. Whatever that point is what I would estimate it to be at. If you have a graphing calculator, you can plug 2,500 straight into y and it will give you what x is, which makes it nice. So that's what you're doing on your homework. I don't think it's that hard. I don't think it's that bad. You need to show me graphs and charts. Got it?